I am the famous American. And here's what I need to ask you, the internet, about, because you know more than I do. I'm just asking questions. Am I doing my research right now in real time asking you? Yes, this is my research. I want to learn from you. The other side of I'm inside the internet, you're outside the internet. That's how this thing works. So from inside the internet, I need to learn this question. I have observed, here in the United States at least, when it comes to typically men of Mexican descent, I could say Hispanic men, but I specifically want to say Mexican men because that's who I interact with the most, Mexican American men, whether they immigrated here from Mexico or first generation Mexican Americans, however that ends up being, specifically men of Mexican background, I'm noticing are being named, their name could be Jesus, which I would pronounce Jesus, or Israel. Let's talk about that. I think that's interesting and fascinating. And part of the why I'm making this video is I want to see, is this happening all across the world? Does this happen in Spain, for example? Does it happen in Portugal? I don't know. Does it happen in Brazil? All my knowledge is and all my access is to Mexican American men. That's all I can tell you. But I think it's interesting because in English, in the United States, if a guy's name was Jesus, it's almost like you'd laugh. That would be funny because I'm like, wait, really? You're calling yourself Jesus? But if the guy is Mexican and it's pronounced Jesus, then there's nothing funny. It's accepted. Like, wait, well, that's something part of their culture. It's not funny or seemingly sacrilegious in any way. Like, because it kind of feels that way from a United States English perspective. Speaking English in American culture, if a guy whose name was Jesus, that would just be kind of almost sacrilegious and weird and funny. But there's no irony if he's Mexican American. Okay, I get it. So why? I've always wondered that. How is that? Explain that to me. And then also on a somewhat similar note is Israel being a man's name in Hispanic culture, specifically Mexican. Israel, like the nation, like the person. But that's going back to Old Testament. Like I know the actor Zach Braff from Scrubs, his middle name is Israel. So for me, I can easily associate it with a Jewish man. He grew up Jewish, Zach Braff. And I think he still identifies as Jewish. But that makes sense if you're Jewish and what I'm calling the Old Testament is your Bible. That makes sense that your middle name or your name would be Israel. But it doesn't make sense if you are a Mexican American who's Catholic. So help me understand that out, because we're talking Old Testament, we're talking New Testament, we're talking Mexican American, first name for men. But it's like if you're in the United States and not Mexican American and not Jewish, your name's not going to be Jesus and your name's not going to be Israel. And if you did, there's probably somehow it's going to be related back to either you're Jewish or you're Mexican American and or Hispanic. Tell me more. I'm teaching no one anything in this video, nor am I trying to. I'm actually just trying to learn from you. You are the outside of the internet. You have a higher IQ. The only way you can raise my IQ and teach me the answers to these questions is to leave the answer right here in the comment section.